What is going on, everyone? This is Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is February 17th, 2021. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content, and I will continue to make it for you. Today, we are going to take a look at the price action in the headline indices, some of the volatility that we saw today intraday. We'll go under the hood and check out the sectors and style factors, some of the trades I took, and then we'll wrap up with some options order flow. But before we jump in, quick risk disclaimer as always. Nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan and your own risk parameters. And last but certainly not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades. All right, so let's jump in. First things first, the Pristine Capital Trading Service is live. This is week 1. I am super pumped now that we are started. We have a nice group together, and feel free to reach out to me if you are interested in signing up as well. You can see my website right here, pristinecapital.net, and then I included my email as well. So let's jump right into this price action for today. So coming into today's session, actually yesterday, if you watched this video, I talked about how things looked a little bit more ambiguous. So yesterday I tried to cleanse my portfolio of a lot of the lagging positions and really just trim the fat, so to speak, take some of the leverage out of my portfolio to really be in a good spot in case we do get a dip or some sort of corrective move in the markets. One thing that has been pretty strange that I've been citing for the past few days is that we had the market kind of moving sideways to up, but then we also had the VIX as well as the VVIX trending higher. And a lot of times when that happens and the VIX and the S&P 500 become very highly correlated, that can lead to a sell-off or some sort of corrective action in the markets. So coming into today's session, we went through this in our pre-market webinar. We just talked about, being ready if there's some sort of pullback, having the ammo to take advantage of it. And, if things really accelerate to the downside, just trying to play good defense. So luckily, we were in a pretty good position for today's price action, but it ended up being, not too bad after all. So if we take a look here, you can see we had the S&P 500 as measured by the SPY ETF finished up 0.02%. We had the NASDAQ QQQ finished down 0.48%. We had the IWM small caps, our biggest loser for the day, down 0.78%. And we had the Dow Jones up 0.32%. So when you look at this daily chart, it really just looks like business as usual, where we had a really nice run off of the GameStop financial crisis, as I like to call it. We had a really nice, maybe 5 or 6 days of just super bullish price action. And then we've essentially moved sideways. And we are in options expiration week. I talk about this all the time. A lot of times during OPEX, you do get some very choppy price actions. So that is more so what we saw today. And I'm going to go very quickly to our hourly chart on the S&P 500. I'm actually not going to go through the Qs, the IWM, or the Dow Jones in detail today because I want to see if we can trim these videos down just a little bit. Yeah, so if we take a look at this hourly chart, so you can see, my line in the sand was this weekly value area high here. And you can see for the majority of the session, or really, I would say like the first couple hours of the session, we were well within this weekly value area. And we actually pierced through it very quickly, in the first hour of trading on very high volume. Now you can see, dip buyers came in to buy the lows every time we dipped, pretty deep into that value area. So we hit a low of around 38.96 on the S&P 500. And then we ended up rallying pretty much for the latter half of the day. We ended up closing unchanged. And if you take a look, we had, the VVIX, which had been trending higher for the past several sessions. Let's take a look at the daily chart here. You can see that the VVIX, it rallied pretty hard in the morning and then sold off throughout the session. We basically put in a doji candle. So we do have this trend higher in the VVIX. A doji candle is still pretty ambiguous. So I definitely want to, just observe what happens in the next few days. And, just really be open to all possibilities. But this is not nearly as bad as it could have been. If we had a big green candle, made new highs in the VIX or in the VVIX, that would have been a much different story. But this is looking like, as of right now, things are cooling off a little bit. Hopefully this is just a little volatility episode and we can move forward. So we have that. Let's take a look at our sectors and style factors for the day. And so you can see a lot of the, really popular high momentum sectors took a big hit today. So we had the cannabis stocks with our YOLO ETF down 2.66%. At one point during the day, this was down, I believe it was like over 4 or around 5%. We had the ARK ETF down 1.9%. That has a very large weight in Tesla, and Tesla has actually been very weak in terms of its price action. Some of the bright spots for the day, we did have telecommunications up 0.78%, and we had the energy sector up 1.49%. But you can see solar energy, which has also been very popular for quite some time, and a very strong momentum sector, down 2.32% as well. And if we take a look at our style factors, you can see this was definitely more of a defensive day in terms of style factor positioning. So if you look at, okay, let's see which style factors did the best. It is our min vol, our defensives, our high div, low vol, our quality, value. So really all sort of like defensive style factors. The ones that did the worst, we had international momentum, and then cyclicals and high beta didn't actually do that bad. But yeah, this in my opinion is sort of like a risk off, like players moving to more of a defensive posture in terms of what they are trading and investing in. And there was a lot of very interesting price action today. A lot of pretty unique setups that developed in some of the really high growth, high momentum names. Those names finally had a bit of a corrective move today. So if you look at the S&P 500 or any of these headline indices, doesn't really look like much happened. But in terms of those like premier assets that a lot of people are really trying to get their hands on, essentially, a lot of those had pretty big pullbacks. So if we take a look, we'll pull up some of the trades for today. And we'll go to our Discord channel here. And we'll pull up our trades channel. Yeah, so luckily coming into this session, like I said, I wasn't really like overloaded with risk. So I didn't have to like stop out of a ton of positions in the morning. One thing I did, I closed out of my DDD common stock for about $46.36. I had paid about like $39 for that. Just wanted to close that position down. I took a starter position in GoGo in the pre-market. That one ended up getting hit pretty hard during the regular trading session, but that is one where I left some room to add on a dip. That is one that I want to hold into the earnings print, which is going to come in March. So that one took a starter in it. We'll see what happens. When the market looked like things could really spill to the downside, I took on some SPY puts as a hedge, put those on for $12.60. And with my mentality being like, okay, if we really spill to the downside, these could be effective. If we end up reclaiming, support levels in the market, I'll just take those off. So that's what I ended up doing into the more so like the latter part of the session. Took those hedges off for a very small loss. Yeah, so you can see I closed those out for $11.99, paid $12.60. I added some Airbnb, which is a name that I have never traded before. It is a stock that I've been wanting to get long for quite some time. Picked that up for $200.97. and Airbnb. Let's take a look at this chart. This one is in a really nice trend. And this one, they are, they obviously do like their home rental business, and they are collecting so much data. And it really seems like there's a lot of different ways that they could pivot their business in time. So this is definitely a name that I want to own. It's sort of like an intermediate term swing. Yeah, we got that pullback very close to that 20-day simple moving average. We actually weren't able to tag the 20-day. So I was just like, you know what, I'm going to get, at least a starter position on the books in this name on this pullback. I ended up taking a call spread in Amazon, and Amazon looks pretty interesting to me. So I got long the 33.30 by 33.40 call spread for March 5th. And really all that's looking for is just, basically a continuation move in Amazon. What I noticed is we had the Amazon earnings that came out very strong, but Jeff Bezos ended up resigning. Then we had, pretty sizable pullback in Amazon, and Amazon was showing relative strength compared to the rest of the market today. So this is a name that, I'm very comfortable with. Obviously a great company. So we'll see what happens. Put that call spread on the books. Another name that I traded today, this name, Sono. Yes, Sonos Inc. They do the speakers. And this name had really strong earnings. You can see it had a really nice gap up. And this name really has not managed to pull back at all. So I purchased some 35 strike calls in Sonos. And this one, it's looking like it just wants to consolidate sideways for potentially another leg up. One thing I was doing today was like, okay, which stocks are showing relative strength during this market pullback? And Sonos really, did not want to go red the entire day. So it looks like there are institutional players that are still accumulating positions in Sonos. So I threw those calls on there. We'll see what happens. I believe I traded one more. Let me see. We'll pull this up. CTK is a name that I put on yesterday. This one, no one really came in to support it, so I took a stop on that name because I wanted to add to another position. So MGNI is a name that I've been long. I have a starter position on from about $39. This is a huge name in digital advertising. And this name, in my opinion, is just a market leader. And we got a pretty nice pullback, and really in the grand scheme, just like a sideways consolidation for this name. And there were a lot of dip buyers coming in to support this name. So we're getting a lot closer to support here. It's been moving sideways for quite some time. So I added to my position, really grossed it up. So we'll see what happens with MGNI. Another thing I did was I took a target on my JPM butterfly. So you can see this one. Yeah, now I'm down to a runner-sized position. Yeah, right here. So I have a butterfly expiring in 2 days for JP Morgan. It's the 135 by 142 by 149 butterfly. Close that out for over a 100% gain. And now I just have a runner-sized position. I'll likely take that into OPEX. That about does it for some of my trades for today. And then let's really quick, we will take a look at some options order flow. Yeah, and for the most part, it's never fun when you're in a bunch of these high growth names, then you get that pullback. But just coming into it, prepared, having raised some cash ahead of time is definitely a good feeling. That way you're not puking up all of your exposure on the lows, that sort of thing. You can actually be in a more proactive mindset. Yeah, and there was a lot of options activity today. So funny enough, pretty much on the lows of the day, there were players buying puts in Apple. And let's see how Apple closed. That was one thing that I noticed very early on in the trading session, that Apple was a bit weak. Let's see. Yeah, Apple, Apple's under pressure here. Closed under the 50-day simple moving average. So yeah, this really is not a very bullish picture. Same thing with Tesla. Tesla is also under pressure. Oh wow. Maybe not actually. So I looked at this one earlier in the day, and this one looked like it was down on its luck. But yeah, you can see it looks like Tesla found some buyers at the 50-day simple moving average. We'll have to see if they can get any follow through. Tesla is definitely that Teflon stock that always finds a way to move higher. So I never count this stock out. But yeah, it's definitely behaving a little bit differently in terms of the trend and the relative strength. And the constant bid for Tesla calls. Oh yeah, it looks like there was one Tesla call buyer that came in the morning. Let's see what else we had. So towards the close, we had somebody buying some UPS calls. Let's take a look at what UPS is doing. Yeah, so UPS just kind of trending sideways for the past like 5 or so months. And then this is an order that really caught my eye for Taiwan Semiconductor. This is a name that is definitely a market leader within that semi space. You can see it actually closed on the lows. This was kind of like a weak close for this one. But yeah, there were players buying calls for January of 2022. Yeah, that about does it for this market recap video. Hope you all had a great trading session today, and I will see you all tomorrow.